ain't working in the wrong area. You ain't working doing anything that's productive for he's on.
You want to do anything crime prevention board?
No. He's over in Trace Project. Sticking it up.
City manager.
Someday you'll look back on this and laugh about it. There you go. That's right. There's always payback.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October 28th meeting of the Haltom City Council. Councilmember Williams, you have your light on.
That was my stomach.
No, your light is on over here.
Light is on. That was my stomach, I guess.
Okay, but it's still on. Okay, gotcha.
You want to turn it off or me?
We'll let Mr. Peterson turn
I
it
just
off.
turned it off. We do welcome all of you here tonight, those of you here in council chambers, as well as those who are watching on Haltom City Cable. Whether you're watching live or a delayed broadcast, we welcome you as you watch your council in action as we address the items of business on this agenda. I have been asked, gentlemen, here on my right, if you will pull those microphones closer to you. We've had a number of people say the last couple of weeks that they're not able to hear when you speak, so if you don't mind, pull those in just a little bit. We begin tonight with our invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Councilmember Trey Fowler. If you will, please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, let us thank you for the opportunity that you give us to come here tonight. Let us ask you to watch over us, allow us to make good, faithful decisions for our community. Let us ask you to watch over those who have lost loved ones since our last meeting, and give special thanks to those and watch over the Van Zant family as they go through their time of mourning and the loss of their daughter. We also want to be mindful and thankful for you providing our crime officers the opportunity to catch the sniper that was in the Washington, D.C. area. Let's ask you to give us a safe and happy meeting tonight and provide all the things for our citizens that we can do. In our Father's name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Jennings, go ahead and voice your...
Right, I was just expressing concern that our monitors are not working right now, and I don't know if we are going out live over HCTV right now. So, Richard, could you possibly check with David or have someone check with David and see if we are getting out?
We've got football in
Okay, while that's being addressed, I think we will go ahead with our presentation tonight. Our spotlight for this council meeting is the Crime Prevention Board, and here to make that presentation on the duties and the purpose of the Crime Prevention Board is Chairman of that board, Tommy Sanderson.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Sanderson. I'm the chairman of the Haltom City Crime Prevention Board, and I'd like to welcome all y'all here tonight. First of all, I'd like to have the crime board members that's here and the past board members that could be here to please stand, and so I can recognize who's here. Okay. My vice chair, Harlan Streeter. One of my board members, Beverly Henson. Ex-board member, Phil Jennings. Other board members that are not present tonight that do serve on the boards: Mary Cox, David Stapp, Larry Walls, and my secretary, Vicki Burton. We also get a lot of help from storefront officer, our crime prevention officer is Officer Sanchez, and the storefront sergeant, Sergeant Ragsdale. The board is made up of citizens of Haltom City. We go out in neighborhoods and talk to you, and the citizens are starting up crime prevention, crime watches on your street. In the last several years, we keep growing in it, and up to the date of this, we have 94 neighborhood crime watches. Our goal is by spring to break 100. And the board helps out with a lot of events throughout the years, from bicycle rodeos to fingerprinting kids. National Night Out is one of our big events in August. We get participants from the fire department, the police department, the Citizens Police Academy, Mobile Crime Watch, all come together along with the citizens and do our National Night Out in August. This past year, the crime board had purchased a VIN etching computer. It does VIN etching on your automobiles. And that's been a real great success for us because it's quick, it's easy. And along with the board and Officer Sanchez, we've done about 60 VINs on vehicles in the city. If you would you like to have one, you can contact the storefront, set up an appointment to come by. It's no cost to you. The board, we have a real good working board. Harlan and Beverly knows what I'm talking about, and Councilman Jennings. We pull together to try to help the police department where we can to get the word out to watch your neighborhood and your property, and what to watch for and call it in. The board has other programs that we have helped out with, is the heat registration, which means help end auto theft. And we've done about 30 heat registrations over the last several months. The board has a new program that's on the roll right now. It's called Business Watch. We're going out and talking with area businesses and getting them signed up to pull a big group meeting together once we have the strip centers, the individual business owners signed up in the area, that we can tell them how to watch the other businesses. And on this, we have an address that we can contact them for events of a burglary or a business theft or a neighborhood theft that's close to their business. And we can contact them by email or by mail, whatever could be easier. It's just one watching another. That's what it's all about. In the last month, since we really did this big kickoff, we've got 56 businesses signed up already, which is just a small drop in the bucket of businesses in Haltom City. And a great deal goes out to an ex-board member and one board member for their effort. It's G.H. Rumbaugh and Hardin Streeter for their hard work of getting some of these businesses up and going. The board would like to thank all the past board members for their help of reaching this goal of 94. And my hat's off to all the ones that have been there before and have gone out, done the cookouts, fed the heat, the cold, and everything for numbers of years. I'm serving my 5th year on this board, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know that everyone else that comes has too, because they keep coming back. Last thing I'd like to do is make an announcement of upcoming event that on November 4th from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at W.T. Francisco Elementary at 3600 Layton, there will be a health and safety fair. If you get a chance, go by there. If you have young children, bring them by. Let us fingerprint them. That's a very good deal. board right now is looking at a new program that we can fingerprint kids off of a scanner, and it will print out a card with your child's picture on it and a pocket card like a driver's license with all the information on it for you and your spouse to have. Thank y'all very much. Any questions?
Members of the council, any questions or comments? Councilmember Jennings.
Well, I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment that I'd like to make. I'd like to thank everyone that's currently a member of this board, and also the people that have served on it in the past. I was out one night riding with one of the police officers, and the members of this board are not only involved with this board, they're involved with a total commitment to stopping crime in Haltom City. So they serve on this board, and they serve on Citizens on Patrol, and there's just any number of offshoots that have come to Haltom City as a result of the Crime Prevention Board being started. But to get back to what I was saying, I was out one night, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just happened to run into Tommy and Harlan Streeter, and they were out in the car at 1 o'clock in the morning, patrolling some of the neighborhoods in Haltom City. This one happened to be a place up north of Loop 820 and right before you get back to Denton Highway. And basically what they were doing is driving up and down the streets, looking at citizens' property, making sure things look right. And we just happened to stop at a corner, and we saw them there, we were talking, and they had pointed out a garage door that was open on someone's house. And this is 1 o'clock in the morning, it's pitch black. These gentlemen are out there looking after the safety of our citizens and looking after their property. And I don't know how many of you people have gotten one of these or not, but I asked Tommy that night, what do y'all do when you run across one of these? Because I'm not going to go up and knock on someone's door at 1 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing he said they did was they let the police department know about it if we hadn't been there, so that they can monitor the situation. And then they send the citizens at that house a card and let them know, we were out there, we were looking, we were helping you out, and we noticed that your garage door was open, and that's something you need to check at night. So it's things like this where these people are going above and beyond the call of duty, and they're out there. First of all, they're out there because they like to be there. They legitimately enjoy being involved with this program. And when they ask you to come out to these things, they love to have you out there and be a part of it. So if you ever, at any time, have entertained the thoughts of getting involved with the board or commission, this particular board and commission would be a great one to get started with, and go to some of their meetings and see what they do and make some of these things that they do. It's a great board and commission for our city, and I appreciate everything that you people do.
Thank you. One last thing is, if you have any questions or like to start a crime watch, you can contact the police storefront on Denton Highway from 8 until 5, or you can contact, if you have email, it's cpboard@haltomcity.com, and we'll get in contact with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanderson, and thanks to your board for all you do to help make Haltom City not only a better place, but a safer place as well. We move now to the consent agenda, and tonight, if you're following along on your agenda, that consists of items number 2 through 7. If you'll notice, number 8 was included on that. We're pulling that off to take separate action on and to have some discussion about. At this time, I'm in line for a motion regarding items 2 through 7 on the consent agenda. Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the consent agenda with the changes to agenda item 3 as stipulated in pre-council, and I believe our city secretary was to read into the record 2 items for consideration.
And we'll get a second to that. Councilmember Henderson?
That's for a second.
We have a motion and a second, and Ms. Staub, if you would, read the captions on items number 5 and 6 as required for us before we proceed, please.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 096-00901, the existing electric franchise between the City of Haltom City and Encore Electric Delivery Company, formerly TXU Electric, by clarifying the method in which franchise fees will be calculated, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date, providing for publication, finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law and providing for acceptance by Encore Electric Delivery Company. An ordinance amending ordinance number 098-04701, the existing gas franchise between the City of Haltom City and Lone Star Gas Company, to provide for a different consideration and to authorize the lease of facilities within the city's rights-of-way, providing an effective date, providing for acceptance by TXU Gas Company, finding and determining that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law.
Thank you, Ms. Staub. Members of the council, any comment, questions regarding the consent agenda? There being none, if you'll register your vote. And that shows 6 in favor. And I did not mention early on in the meeting, and I need to do so, Council Member Dewey Markham is ill tonight and not able to be here. And we do wish him well in his recovery. I hope he has a speedy recovery. What we have just done, I think most of you here know what a consent agenda is. These are items considered to be routine and self-explanatory, and the council acts on all of these items with one motion, authorizes the city manager to implement each item in accordance with the staff recommendation. We come down to item 8 that we pulled off the agenda. Councilmember Williams, were you going to begin discussion or introduce item number 8 for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Item 8 was concerning the Charter Review Commission that we were going to form, and we had a discussion and a workshop pre-council, and we have gave staff some direction on this, and they're going to work on that, bring it back to us at the November 11th meeting, and so I'm asking that the council table this until the November 11th meeting.
Councilmember Hurley.
That's for second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second regarding item number 8. Any discussion or questions by members of the council? Okay, there being none, if you'll register your vote, and motion passes by unanimous vote. Item number 9 on the agenda is a public hearing, and I believe Mr. Pliska, our planning director, is going to introduce this item at this time.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, citizens of Haltom City. This is item number conditional use 007-02 to conduct a public hearing and consider the application of Mr. Don Elliott on behalf of Mr. Jerry Eberly for a conditional use permit to operate a powder coating business in an M2 industrial district in Suite B on Lot 20, Block 2, Cascade Heights Edition, located on the north side of Garland Drive, containing approximately 4,000 square feet of warehouse space, locally known as 4413 Garland Drive. We also have the corresponding ordinance, ordinance number O2002-040-15 for conditional use 007-02, and this consideration and or action regarding approval of an ordinance amending ordinance number O2002-032-15 as amended, the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the City of Haltom City for a conditional use permit to allow for a powder coating metal finishing business in accordance with ordinance number 2002-03215 zoning ordinance section 36.2, conditional uses on lot 20 block 2 Cascade Heights edition, which contains approximately 4,000 square feet of warehouse space located on the north side of Garland Drive and locally known as 4413 Suite B Garland Drive. Again, we've noted the location for you. Again, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit with site plan approval in order to operate a powder coating business on the site. Again, the existing zoning is M2 and the land use is warehouse. I list for you the adjacent zoning and land uses. The thoroughfares that will be accessed is Garland Drive. The site is zoned M2, and the reason for that is just a close scrutiny of this type of use in an industrial area. Legal notice regarding the public hearing was published in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram September 27, 2002. Property owner notification for all properties within 200 feet of the site were mailed out on September 27th as well. 14 properties were notified. Staff received 0 in opposition and 1 in favor. I formally submit the attachments, which include a letter from the applicant, proposed site plan, site map, and property owners within 200 feet. The aerial indicates a vacant property. The building was constructed this summer. post a photo of the site. The P&Z recommended at their October 8th, 2002 meeting unanimously to recommend approval to the City Council for this conditional use permit for the powder coating metal finishing facility.
Okay, since this is a public hearing, I'll open the public hearing at this time, and we'll start with the members of the council. Any questions for Mr. Pliska regarding this item? Councilmember
Mayor.
Williams?
Chief Planner, I have one question.
Yes,
It
sir.
says here there's going to be a self-contained spray booth with a automatic fire extinguisher. Is that pretty well?
That is correct. There were specifications submitted by the applicant, which we ran through the fire department, the fire marshal's office, and everything appeared in order.
And fire department's in agreement
Yes,
with it?
absolutely. Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Pliska before I open this up to the audience? Okay, there being none, thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Pliska. Since this is a public hearing, members of the audience have an opportunity if you wish to speak either for or against this item. Before we do that, though, I probably need to call on Mr. Elliott. Mr. Elliott, are you here? Would you like to address the council at this time, or just be available to answer any questions that... Okay, members of the council, any questions for Mr. Elliott regarding this? Mr. Elliott, I don't believe we'll have any question for you from council. Members of the audience, anyone wishing to speak either for or against this request, this application? Okay, there being none, I'll close the public hearing and we'll move to the corresponding motion. Councilmember Averett?
Mayor, I make a motion we approve agenda item number 9.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Councilmember Henderson?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the ordinance on item number 9. Any discussion on that? Okay, there being none, register your vote, and that passes by unanimous vote. Ms. Staub, as City Secretary, do we have any speakers' request cards turned in to you at this time? Okay, there being none, we move on beyond the Visitor Citizens Forum and come to the announcements section, and I think our city engineer is first up. I think he has an announcement to make about some good things happening on Broadway Avenue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to announce that tomorrow night, 5:00 p.m., in this room, we'll have an open meeting for any interested residents that would like to get a status update on the progress on the Broadway construction project. And we're also looking to see what we can do to help promote the businesses that are along Broadway that are going through the difficult times with the construction. This meeting is open to anybody, not just to the people affected by the Broadway construction. Additionally, at this meeting, we'll have both representatives from the Texas Department of Transportation and the contractor sending residents as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gregg. And Mr. Fowler, Councilmember Fowler, I believe you have a couple of announcements to make at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to announce, as we did last time, that early voting for our national elections will go on through Friday, November the 1st, at our police storefront facility that's on Webster, on the corner of Webster and Denton Highway, actually next door to the Ace Hardware. It'll go from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that'll be through this Friday, November the 1st. Hope everyone will take time to get out and participate in our election process. Also have this Thursday, the 31st, a very exciting event. We have the Halloween Carnival, our Haltom City Halloween Carnival at the Recreation Center. Going to be holding a costume contest, I was told, for those 12 and under, and I believe there are 4 or 5 different categories that you can participate in. It's a great opportunity for our community to get out and participate, young and old alike. Hope that everyone will take time. Need volunteers, I'm sure, for this event. It takes a lot of people. We have great participation. It's a great opportunity to participate in our community, and so we hope you'll either come and participate or bring your children or grandchildren and be involved. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Fowler. And now, Councilmember Williams, I believe you have a couple of announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. I got one that requires glasses. Copies of the Haltom City Council meetings, which are in top demand right now, are available now both on VHS and DVD. They're available for checkout at the Haltom City Public Library. Residents can expect copies to be on the shelves the Friday following the council meeting. Citizens can call the library at 817-222-7786 to check on the availability. So call early and call often. Christmas is around the corner, and I'm proud to say that the Haltom City Beautification Board is sponsoring the Christmas tree lighting again this year. The date is December the 5th, begin at 6 o'clock and go to 9 o'clock. The theme is Dickens on Broadway, and that doesn't have anything to do with the meeting tomorrow night about trying to get down Broadway. We're going to have it opened up where you can get through it. Got some very nice tree coming. Going to have some booths and stuff set up, lots of activities, and like Trey said, we got something for all ages. And I want to thank the Beautification Board for putting that together. It's going to be held at the City Hall this year, and it's going to be back behind the building. We're going to close off the streets on each side, so bring your children, grandchildren, and friends and stuff, and expect to have a good time. Again, that's December the 5th, 6 to 9 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, gentlemen, for these announcements about very important activities going on in Haltom City. At this time, the mayor and members of the council have a special presentation to make, and would like to ask Donna Bernard, if you will, to join me at the podium, please. Donna, we talked last week about the service you have rendered to the staff and the citizens of Haltom City over the last several months while you served as interim city secretary. And the members of the council and the mayor would like to present to you at this time just a token of our appreciation. It's a clock that is engraved City of Haltom City in appreciation to Donna Bernard for your outstanding efforts and commitment as interim city manager, July 2002 through
City Secretary, I think. Was I gone for a while?
It's my pleasure to present this, and we hope every time you look at a clock and see what time it is, you'll remember fondly members of the council and the mayor and how much we appreciate what you've done for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council, too. The job of the city secretary, she has a huge responsibility. And I just would like to thank the city manager and the department heads and all the employees for the help that they gave me, and the city attorney, Wayne. I was always calling him. Anyway, thank you. This is a great honor. Appreciate it.
Hang on just a moment.
Uh-huh.
I think I gave you a promotion. I don't think Richard was aware that we had another city secretary.
No, he looked surprised.
I thought I was doing all the work, you know, but maybe you're getting the credit for it. That's okay.
Well, when you get 61 years old like I am, you know, you look at secretary and you see manager, and I apologize to
We're all the
everybody,
same.
but we do thank you for serving as the city secretary.
Thank you for your
during this time
opportunity.
period. Members of the council, any comments you'd like to make?
It was just time that we give you something.
Okay, after having bungled that one, I will move forward now to item number 10, the Senior Advisory Committee. Councilmember Williams had asked that this be placed on the agenda, and Councilmember Williams, if you will introduce this item for us, please.
Thank you, Mayor. A few months ago, I got an email from a citizen in Haltom City bringing to my attention possibility for a need of a senior advisory committee, be an ad hoc type committee, and I kicked around the idea for a while, and I've had some citizens come before me and show some interest in it. So this morning about lunchtime, I went down to the Senior Citizen Center and talked to Bobby Arthur and George Fowler, and they were gracious enough to let me address the group down there. The reason I placed this on the agenda is to be able to allow the citizens, the senior citizens of Haltom City, to share their ideals in the Haltom City's future. Many times in the last 5 years, City Council has items come before them that affects all different age groups. Many times we as a council must listen to ones that say they represent seniors and find out later that maybe they did or not, did or not. I went to Haltom High School. My wife wrote this. I actually did. I just can't read it. Can I go? Actually, to find out later that possibly, it didn't come from a group of seniors. And this council's been very faithful in going down and spending time in the Senior Citizen Center, and I'm proud of every member on here that does that, and so does staff. I think it's time that we gave them to have an opportunity to have some input on our budget, ideals. One of the things in the email said that the senior citizens wanted to move from the location they're at. I sort of polled the senior citizens down there, and they're quite happy with where they're at. So we have a difference of opinion as to who has said what. And so one of the seniors was kind enough today to turn me in a copy of the City of Grapevine. They have a Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. The charge of their committee is to act as advisory capacity to the city in matters pertaining to senior citizens, to help identify the needs of senior citizens and enhance the quality of life, and to use all available resources to inform senior citizens of community services. I think it's very important. Seniors have given Haltom City quite a bit in the past years, and I think we should still let them be a vital input to us. I'm suggesting on this item to have the senior citizens run their own committee. I don't have to be controlled by the council. I'd like to have them have their own, pick their own members. I'd like them probably to hold it to a number of 5. I'll let the council give their views here in a minute. Having a chairman. And this isn't going to be a committee to go down and run the this isn't going to be a committee to go down and run the Senior Citizen Center. We have a service that runs it from 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. They do a very good job. We have a very good Senior Citizen Center director, Bobby Arthur, and she does an excellent job. I promised her tonight that I wouldn't call her forward and have anything to say about this. The Haltom Senior Citizen Center is located at 5000 Bernice Street in Haltom City. From 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, is operated by the SCS, Senior Citizen Services of Greater Tarrant County. We not only serve senior citizens in Haltom City, we have them come in from North Richland Hills, Watauga, Fort Worth. There's a great group of people that come in down there. And I would like to charge this group to pick 5 committee members and have meetings on a bi-monthly basis. Discretion of the council whether or not you want a liaison to go down there and meet with them to transfer information back and forth. I would like to hold it to probably the residents of Haltom City. Some of our other boards, we have members, and we have, at one time we had ex officio members, and I think the council has decided it's better just to have your board members, and anyone else that wants to come and have input is welcome to come to the meeting. These aren't closed meetings, so I think it's something that Haltom City needs. I think with the upcoming budget next year, we can get this in line early enough and get it underway, and the seniors can have a big input on what's going on in next year's budget. And I'll open the floor up to the rest of the council.
Councilmember Williams, I think you had received today maybe another city's resolution.
City
or
of
ordinance.
Grapevine.
Yes, sir. And do you want to read part of that, something that has to do maybe with how they go about it and the purpose they're trying to achieve with that, and tell us, I think that's what you intend for this,
Right.
This one in Haltom
This is
City.
just a resolution by the City of Grapevine, and it says, whereas the consideration, belief, and opinion of the City of Grapevine Council that certain aspects of city government functions in a manner that the best serves the needs of the community when interested citizens participate and assist in and the formulations of policies. Whereas City of Grapevine City Council is under the consideration belief that the opinion that such participation by effectively manifested through a senior citizen advisory board, and whereas the City of Grapevine Council is considered belief and best opinion the senior citizen advisory board would benefit and be in the best interest of the City of Grapevine. Now therefore it be resolved the City Council of Grapevine, Section 1, that the Senior Citizen Advisory Board of the City of Grapevine, Texas be hereby established. Number 2, that the purpose of the Senior Citizens Advisory Board shall be to act as advisory capacity in the city in the matters pertaining to senior citizens, to help identify the needs of senior citizens and enhance the quality of their life, and use all available resources to inform senior citizens of community services. This organization be the Senior Citizen Advisory Board and shall be as follows. And then it gets down in their own deal. They have like 7 members appointed, and then they've got some outside, not only from the senior citizen, they've got the Grapevine Housing Authority and Grace Board of Directors, 3 different groups that they get their citizens from to serve on this. Initially, 2 regular members shall be appointed to serve as 1-year term, and 2 regular members shall be appointed to serve as 2-year terms, and thereafter all appointments shall be made 2-year terms. The mayor shall appoint city council member to be a liaison, and the mayor shall appoint the membership chairman who will preside in the meetings. The chairman must be a resident of the Grapevine. The board will act upon the majority vote of its members. The board shall meet monthly and at other special meetings called by the chairman. That this resolution be effective after the date of this passage. I know I said City of Grapevine a lot of times there, and I didn't mean to do that. They've got a great city over there, and they were the ones that happened to have the policy already in effect. And I think the guidelines of their policy have merit, and I think it's time that Haltom City probably adopt the same kind of method. I'd like to have the input from the seniors, not only at budget time, but year-round.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great idea as well, and then I appreciate your leadership, Councilmember Williams, in this area. I do have a question for you, though. Would these members come directly from the senior citizen center? There we go. Senior Citizen Center, or would they come from throughout the city? I mean, how do you
That would be up to
envision
this,
that?
that would be up to this body. I think I would like this body to give some sort of direction toward the Senior Citizen Center. I think other than just giving the direction of probably the guidelines for of who can serve, otherwise it's their committee. So if this group would like to come to some sort of agreement on who, where, and how long, that's basically what we need. And then Bobby does a good job. Just turn it over to Bobby and let them have some sort of a some sort of a selection of their own and pick their own members. I don't really think that the council, I don't know if y'all want to pick your own members to it. If you did, I think we'd have to have more than 5, because there's 8 members here, or someone wouldn't get to pick their members. I'm not as much important as wanting to pick a member as I am wanting to get the committee organized.
I agree. That's all, Mayor. Thanks.
Councilmember Hurley, Councilmember Fowler, Councilmember Jennings, in that order, please.
Mayor, I think Councilmember Williams has got a good idea, and I like it. I can support it. I would suggest that I don't think there'd be any opposition from this council, but I'd like to suggest that he formalize this as it would apply to Haltom City, and the where-ifs and whereases all put in there where we could see what we're looking at. And I don't think it have any problem passing.
Just a point of clarity.
Just formalize the whole thing as it was applied to Haltom City.
And bring it back at
and bring it back to the council so it could be voted on.
Okay. I want to be sure.
I can support that.
Okay.
Mayor?
Councilmember Fowler.
Get some kind of
Mr. Mayor, I was going to reiterate what Councilmember Hurley had just said. I'm in great support of this. I think there's a necessity for a board such as this, but I think that we do need to maybe give Councilmember Williams the opportunity to go back and, create some form of a little bit better draft that would apply specifically to Haltom City, and then allow us to look at it at that point, maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after, if that would be suitable to Councilmember Williams.
Okay. Councilmember Williams, any comment you want to make
Yes,
regarding these suggestions?
I was basically tonight wanting to know if the council was in favor of this. I didn't want to proceed with it before doing that, and that's, we don't have our policy in effect, and I wouldn't mind if I could suggest maybe the senior citizen director, Bobby Arthur, myself, city manager, and possibly the city secretary get together one afternoon and run over this. And but I would like to have some direction to the council as far as the amount of members they would like to have on it.
Okay. Councilmember Jennings, and then I think Mr. Torres may have a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only concern that I would have, and I express this in pre-council, is we do have input from an awful lot of senior citizens that do not live within the boundaries of Haltom City. The only thing that I would request is that the makeup of this particular advisory committee, those members be held to be citizens of the city of Haltom City. Certainly we would like input from anybody that's at the senior citizen, from any senior within our borders, and anyone that happens to be visiting the city. That's fine. But I believe that the makeup of this board strictly needs to be citizens of Haltom City.
Mr. Torres?
Mayor and Council, I'd be happy to draft a resolution that would get a little bit closer to addressing the needs of Haltom City, and then arrange a meeting with the few that you mentioned, and work it out, and then present it back to the council in 2 weeks.
Could we get some sort of a consensus on the amount of members they might want to put on there, or do you want to leave that to city manager's discretion? And I'd like to say one thing. I don't know if I said it. I babbled so long. This is not a group to go down and run the Senior Citizen Center. It will still be operated by the organization I talked about earlier. Bobby Arthur will still be the director of that, working under the supervision of George Fowler. And this is no way a committee to run the Senior Citizen Center.
Councilmember Fowler, and then Councilmember Hurley.
To answer your question, Councilmember Williams, I would think 5 would be a sufficient number, maybe ratified by the entire council to be approved. Each member be approved by the council in ratification process. I have a question though, and I don't know whether to direct this to the manager, the mayor, or maybe Miss Arthur. What age is it that you're considered to be?
60.
It's 60. Okay, so it would apply for anyone 60 or older. Okay. Also, I would like to probably input one thing. I would think that we would maybe highly consider the process that we use through nomination, and also through opening this up to the citizens through our questionnaire, or what's the term I'm looking for?
The citizen survey that's been done?
Application.
No, the application process.
Oh.
Our citizens' application for boards and commissions. I don't think that we might benefit by opening up to that also, and having citizens throughout the community, as well as those that provide them at Senior Citizen Center, those who would be interested in serving. That way we might get a good pool of candidates to choose from.
Councilmember Hurley.
I was going to answer Mr. Williams' question whenever he said how many. Mr. Fowler's already answered 5, and I think this is what Mr. Williams stated up front, was he would suggest 5 members.
Okay, and I do have a question, Councilmember Williams, just for clarity on my part. Is this viewed is what you envision here an ad hoc committee, a task force to address specific subjects, or do you have in mind something that would be a standing group that would have ongoing responsibilities?
Well, I think with the way that the fellow citizen city we have over here in Grapevine, the way they have their standard, it's an ongoing deal. I think that the members should be able to serve a term. And I think there ought to be changed out periodically to get fresh ideas. City Secretary Ms. Stoppett asked me about calling it a task force, and I had suggested Senior Advisory Committee. I don't have a problem with task force, but I think a task force, I think somebody with machetes, machine guns, and something like that. So I don't. It's a strong. It just sounds like strong language, but you know, I don't. Would Ms. Stopp, would you like to maybe add the difference between task force? Give her a microphone. Y'all want to hear her talk anyway.
I think our city attorney can basically answer that directly and better for the citizens.
Absolutely.
And I'm passing.
She's
Councilmember
learning
Williams.
quick. Have you noticed?
She is. Councilmember Williams, I think you stated it pretty succinctly. The name is probably not so important as the functions of the board, and if this is going to be a standing committee that's going to be making recommendations to the council from time to time, I think the way that Grapevine has set it up is probably a sufficient way for Haltom City to also set it up. I'm thinking, without having reviewed Chapter 2 of the City Code, that this may be something we want to do in the form of an ordinance rather than resolution, and we'll just place this committee in Section 2 of your boards and commissions ordinance and provide a specific place for them in the code with the functions that you desire to place upon them.
Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we need to get some guidelines if this is going to be a committee or if this is going to be a board. If it's going to be a board, I think we need to do it along the lines like we do every other board in the city, and we need to have 8 members. You know, this doesn't need to be a standalone type situation. We need to bring it in. If we're going to do it under an ordinance and put it in Section 2, then I think that, you know, we need to have the 8 members like we do in every other committee or board.
And that's the council's prerogative. I didn't mean to try to create any additional requirements for this board, and if it is the desire of the council to create this as a committee with a different type of membership, that will work also. It was my suggestion to put it in Chapter 2 because I was envisioning from reading the Grapevine ordinance that this would actually be a board that would meet from time to time and give recommendations to the city council.
Did that address your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, we need to define how many people we want to, you know, if it's going to be as a board and they're going to make recommendations on budget like all our other boards do, I think we might want to consider, you know, 8 members like we have on all our other boards.
Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can see Councilmember Henderson's point here, and I do agree with it. I believe the intent of the item as it was placed on the agenda tonight was to form a committee, actually more for the senior citizens, to get input from them than to form a quote board or commission by which the city council would solicit input or whatever. I think it's very important that we differentiate between the two. We need to determine exactly what it is we're trying to do here. If in fact we're concerned with what the seniors have to say and what they can bring before this council, and we want this to be comprised of what they as a group want, then I think we need to let them make the decisions as to how they would like to structure this. Certainly we need to set some guidelines, but if it's going to be a committee, I think it should be a small committee with no more than 5 people. If it's going to be a board and we're going to fund this using city funds, and they're going to have some type of a budget like other boards and commissions we have here in the city do, then I think we defeat the purpose by making a board out of it, because we as council members would then appoint who goes on this particular board. And I think what we were trying to get to here, the original spirit of this thing as it was brought before us tonight, was to let this be for the seniors and have the seniors' input. So I would like to stay as far away from a board or commission as we can possibly stay. I like the title Senior Advisory Committee. You're not placing any restrictions on them as to what they can bring to the council. You're asking for input. You're asking for what affects the seniors and what the seniors view the problems to be, and then let them decide. If it's something that needs to come before the city council, then they can have their person that they elect as the chair or spokesperson or whatever request that we put an item on the agenda for consideration, and we can act on it at that time. I don't believe that you're going to see 52 pieces of legislation come before this body that the seniors down there have come up with. I do believe that there's going to be some valid input, and I do believe we're going to get some good ideas from down there. I would like to see the seniors elect their own members of that committee. I for one wouldn't like to tell somebody, you know, I want you to sit on here and I don't want you to. I'm not down there every day. These people are down there every day. Should we have people from outside of the seniors that are down there? I think Councilmember Fowler made a very valid point. I think we should solicit input from anybody that would be interested. And we should take those applications or whatever and give them to the people down there and let them decide who they want to sit on that committee. We could also use this as a tool to get seniors who are not involved at that center down there now, down there, and let them widen that network a little bit. So, you know, this can be a good thing for everyone involved. But I for one, would like to stick with a advisory committee. I would like to keep it to 5 members. I would like to solicit the membership from all across Haltom City and let the seniors decide who they want their members to be.
Excuse me.
Mayor, I was just going to comment. I think Councilmember Jennings' fix to this is a very reasonable one. Unlike Grapevine, we'll just make this into a senior citizen advisory committee rather than a board. In that regard, with everything Councilmember Jennings said, I think it would be appropriate for the council to see this as a resolution rather than an ordinance on the next agenda.
Okay, Councilmember Williams and then Councilmember Hurley.
Thank you. Let me throw something else out there. Why not do this for 1 year and see how it works? Just call it the Haltom City Senior Advisory Committee. Put it in effect, and starting right now, it will be in effect through the next fiscal budget year. And at that time, the council that's up here at that time can look at it. If it's a successful tool that we can use, we'll go on from that. I'm like Phil. I would rather, we've got enough boards and commissions that we have right now to keep up with. I think if we just hold it to a committee, might be my suggestion, just make it a year ad hoc committee. At that time, we can look at it. If it's successful, we can extend it. And if it's something we don't think it's worthwhile, then we can dismiss it.
I like that. I like that. This is, we're talking about good things here. Councilmember Hurley?
I was just going to second what Councilor Jennings was talking about, because as a committee, they'll have more latitude to do what they like and to bring to the council, and they won't have the restrictions and the confining rules and regulations of a board, because if they fail to make a meeting, 3 consecutive meetings, they're off the board. It's too restrictive and it doesn't give them the latitude. I think what Phil's talking about is a committee that they appoint and 5 members. Make it simple and give it more latitude for functioning.
Okay, have we had enough discussion, Councilmember Williams, to move forward with a motion on this item number 10?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to make a motion that
Okay.
the council move forward and have myself, city manager, city secretary, and the senior citizen director, Bobby Author, to arrange a meeting. And to
Okay.
do this, we'll bring it back to council to November 11th. Can we get it by November 11th?
Yeah.
We'll try to get it back by November 11th meeting. And at that time, we'll turn it over to senior citizens, and it will be theirs.
Councilmember Henderson.
For a second.
Councilmember Fowler?
For a second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion on item number 10? There being none, if you'll register your vote. And the display shows all members of the council in support. We come now to item number 11. We have been here about an hour, and historically we have stopped and taken a 5-minute recess. Would you like to do that at this time, or shall we go? Okay. Okay. 5 minutes. We'll be back, if you can, as quickly after 8:30 as we can.
How you doing? Come on down. How you doing?
I was gonna go down and talk to him, but we got.
You know who the guy was that was sitting up here, the ponytail up front, had on the. Don't have it much. I seen him down there, he's talking to you.
David Avery said that he just inherited a house over here somewhere and just moved there.
He's up there talking to the hacker.
Uh-huh.
She told me she's.
We did. Employee, reporter. Employee. So
Hey, everything's saying, got a whole new outlook.
troublemaker.
I do.
Trey Fowler. Yeah, you can.
He's talking to make a point.
Trey Fowler.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 8:35, and we are reconvened after the recess. And as soon as the noise calms down in the hall, we will continue.
Tom will come.
Oh, Tom.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we come now to item number 11 on our agenda, the financial disclosure and conflicts of interest. And since I am Councilmember Fowler, your light is on.
That must have been from previous.
Okay. Since I'm the one that had placed this on the agenda, I will proceed to introduce this item at this time. Back in February, the Colleyville City Council enacted what they called a financial disclosure and business conflicts of interest ordinance. This ordinance that comes from Colleyville requires upfront and ongoing disclosure of a number of things, including sources of occupational income, property owned within the city and adjoining areas, gifts received of $250 or more, boards of directors of any organizations, executive positions held in any firm, corporation, partnership, or proprietorship, any bankruptcies, indictments, felony convictions, or misdemeanor charges involving moral turpitude, as well as interest in partnerships, joint ventures, and other business associations. Now, these upfront and ongoing disclosures apply to the mayor, to the council, to candidates for mayor and council, as well as members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment, as well as Planning and Zoning Commissioners and Zoning Board of Adjustment appointees that are under consideration. It also includes the spouse and the dependent children, except for the bankruptcies, indictments, felony convictions, and misdemeanors involving moral turpitude. And the way this was set up in Colleyville, the existing mayor, council, and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment are grandfathered. However, these provisions will apply at the time of reappointment or filing for reelection. I've provided copies of the Colleyville, I call it the Colleyville model. I provided copies back on September the 12th to members of the council, to the city manager, and to the city's attorney. So now, 6 weeks later, we might have had time to become somewhat familiar with that document, as well as had time to think it over and perhaps be ready to have some discussion on it here tonight. I believe that Colleyville's ordinance that's contained in this document has merit for Haltom City. And what I'm doing tonight is to just ask the council for us to at least begin consideration, just begin discussion. I don't believe there's any way we can be reasonably expected to take any kind of action tonight, any decisive action. This may take a while for us to do that, but I would like to begin discussion regarding enacting this ordinance here in Haltom City. I believe this will be a complement to our existing ethics ordinance that was adopted on March 12, 2001. The charter of our city says the council by ordinance shall adopt and maintain in force an ethics policy and may from time to time amend the ethics policy as the city council determines to be appropriate. The existing ethics ordinance that we have in place here in Haltom City only requires disclosure of conflicts at the point of discussion. It comes up as an item on an agenda, and at that point, if there are any conflicts that an elected official has, it must be disclosed at that time. Enacting this ordinance from Colleyville goes a step further than that. It requires upfront. It requires a person, when they file for candidacy, to make the disclosure of the items I mentioned a moment ago, as well as those two boards and commissions we mentioned a moment ago, when they come up for appointment. It's at that point, up front, that these matters are to be disclosed. And another way this is different than what we currently have in our current ethics ordinance, it is more extensive in the listing of areas that are covered and impacted than the existing Haltom City ethics ordinance has. The purpose I have in mind by bringing this before the council and to ask my colleagues here to consider enacting it is this. Maybe I need to take just a minute or two to say what I'm not trying to achieve. Number one, I'm not wanting to target anybody. Number two, my purpose is not because I know of existing officials who have violated the current ordinance. To my knowledge, since I've been mayor here in Haltom City, council members from time to time disclose conflicts of interest and they recuse themselves. So what I am trying to accomplish tonight is not a reaction to what I perceive to be existing officials who have violated the current ordinance. That's not the case at all. I have absolutely no evidence that any council member since I've been in office has violated our existing ethics ordinance. I am not doing this for political reasons. If you'll notice, I've bent over backward to prevent that. When this came out in February, I got a copy of it from the city of Colleyville, and I brought it to City Hall and was planning to have it placed on an agenda in March. And then I got to thinking better of that and had it pulled off. First of all, I moved it from March till now because I did not want it to be perceived as something political. I was not. It was in the middle of an election cycle. I was not up for re-election. I pulled it away. And I intended to bring it back up immediately after the election, but by that time we were in the middle of a new city manager going through the budget for the first time, and I wanted us to be able to focus on that and not get us sidetracked on something else. In addition to that, I chose to wait until now to allow council plenty of time to address this issue before we get into another election cycle. And the election cycle that will be coming up, I will be one of the first people impacted by this. There will be others here among my colleagues who will join me if council should see fit to adopt this in some form. They will join me, but I will be one of the first ones to be affected. The reason I'm bringing this forth at this time is because I believe it's the right thing. I believe it's the right thing for Haltom City. Colleyville's purpose, according to the preamble, and I think you gentlemen here on the dais with me have had an opportunity to read that, states that their purpose was that, quote, the citizens of the city of Colleyville are entitled to know certain information about candidates for public office. Elected officials and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment that may influence their decisions and determine whether they can make unbiased decisions, and to ensure citizen trust of elected and appointed officials in the city, end of quote. I believe that I concur with their stated purpose that our citizens have a right to know, and that this openness, this disclosure that I'm recommending and asking the council to give consideration to does contribute toward ensuring citizen trust. And we know in our world today, with all kinds of political and economic things going on, trust is a very fragile commodity. And anything I can do to foster or nurture trust and that type of thing in the citizens of Haltom City, I'm very interested in. What this will allow us to do is to raise the bar, and I think that's a direct quote from the mayor of Colleyville when this was brought out. The reason they wanted to do that was to raise the bar, to simply set a higher standard. And this is an opportunity, I think, for Haltom City to step into the stream of leading the way toward openness. And my vision for Haltom City is one of openness and trust by all elected officials. And I want to foster and nurture that, and I believe this ordinance does that. I believe public servants, and that's what we are, all elected officials. This city is not about the mayor. It's not his city. It's not about members of the council. It's not their city. It belongs to the citizens. And what this does, it puts us in a position of being public servants, and enacting this ordinance underscores the fact of our transparency. I believe as elected officials we are transparent, and I believe that effective leaders in today's world are people that are open and upfront with no secrets. I think that's the kind of leaders that citizens are looking for. We live in a world where there are not any secrets. The types of things that are being addressed with the incorporation or the enactment of this ordinance are things that people can find out. On the internet, it's incredible the kind of information that's out there. And I'd much rather be proactive and be honest and be upfront with our citizens. And if there is a problem, you know, all of us haven't always made the right decisions. Back in our background somewhere when we were young and foolish, we might have, in a moment of indiscretion, done something that we've regretted. And I think if we can address that up front and be proactive, I think people are forgiving. I think people understand, and I think they appreciate to say, hey, I've got something in my background that happened that I'm not very proud of, and I learned something from that, and I'm a better person, and I'm in a position to provide leadership of a quality I would not have been had I not undergone that experience. I have a lot of faith in the people of Haltom City, and I'm convinced that they can look at this kind of information and make a good decision. And they can put it in perspective if we'll be open and upfront, and we can let them decide in regard to that. And last of all, I want to point out that in the spirit of this upfront disclosure, and business conflicts of interest ordinance. I've submitted on an attached page a summary of all of these items that's required by the Colleyville ordinance as they relate to me as of today's date, and any of you are welcome to that. See the city secretary and she can provide you with a copy of that. It just simply provides details of my sources of income and property that I own and boards and commissions that I sit on out in the community, and various things like that that I believe are important for citizens to know. What I'm asking the council to do tonight again is not to take action to adopt this tonight. This may take a while for us to work through this. And by the way, there may be some things that are important in Colleyville that are just not issues here in Haltom City. There may be things here that we need to add to it. There's nothing about this document that I think is sacred particularly. It needs to be custom tailored to Haltom City if we're going to enact it in any form. I simply brought it forth in its pure form as they had enacted it, and not taken anything out, not added anything to it, so we could take away any political overtones that might exist if I were to have done that. So to my colleagues and to those here in the audience, thank you for your indulgence as I've rambled on longer than I intended to in introducing this item. But this is what I have in mind, and I'll open the floor up for discussion at this time. And at some point, if we're ready to make a motion to do whatever we want to with this, we'll be in line for a motion. But before we do that, I welcome any kind of questions, comments from other members among the elected officials. Councilmember Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank both you and Councilmember Williams for bringing forth new ideas to the council to look at. I think this is a situation that's necessarily good for our community, and it's an opportunity for us to maybe provide information to those out there. I know there have been a lot of, and I know currently and in the past there have been a lot of mistruths or misnomers about some of the things that council members do, and I know Councilmember Jennings was accused of something in the paper this weekend, what I would consider very cowardly when someone can't put their name but they can accuse someone of something, and maybe this disclosure of some of the things that the business places that we work and the things that we do, maybe that would have dispelled some of that. I don't know if it would have, but I know that's not the truth, and I know that maybe if there was a document like this, that it might eliminate some of that, and again, it may not. But I don't think that this is a situation, as we'd spoke of in pre-council, that we can act on tonight. I would like to look at it, and I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that has merit that we do need to take forth and look at in the future and see if we can generate some type of disclosure policy or document that would allow the citizens to know a little bit more about the council members, as well as the planning and zoning commissioners and zoning board of adjustment members.
Thank you, Councilmember Fowler. Anyone else like to make a comment at this time? Councilmember Jennings and then Councilmember Hurley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with several things that have been said here tonight. Number one, I do agree with the fact that this would certainly be a work in progress. This is a long way from being a completed document. There are many questions that I have pertaining to this the way it is presented, and I'm not going to bore everybody with bringing it up here tonight. Several of the items and concerns I did bring up in pre-council, and I think these are things that we're going to need to iron out as we look at this document. I question the need for this particular item. We do have an ethics policy that's less than 1 year old. We charged a group of citizens of the city of Haltom City with drafting that policy as it exists today, and then as elected officials of this city, we're sworn to uphold that policy, and I feel that we've been doing a great job of that. I do not see how you can disclose in advance a possible conflict of interest that has something to do with an item that you do not even know is going to be on an agenda 6 months from now. I do not see how anything that I see on this particular document would allow you to do that. So I question the need for that. If we have an ethics policy that is in good standing, that is well written, and that we are adhering to, I do not see where we gain anything here, other than the fact of, you know, where do you work? Well, you can believe anybody on the subject of where do you work. If you read this paper right here, I work for a gentleman that I've never worked for a day in my life. So it's just a matter of what you want to believe. If you don't believe in the people that you elected, then you elected the wrong people. You know, you have the final say out there who you want sitting up here on this body. And if we're not conducting ourselves in an ethical and moral way, then we need to go. I don't believe there's anybody on this board right now that has let anyone down in any of those areas. Is this a good thing? In theory, it could be considered to be a good thing. In theory, it could also be considered to be a worthless piece of paper. You can write what you want, you can say what you want. And up until the time someone proves something, then they pretty much have to take you for your word. Were you to leave off, in this instance, we're looking at somebody that has 13 or 14 sources of income. What if they left one off? Well, does that make them unbelievable? Does that make them a person that forgot something? Does that make them subject to a $500 fine? And if it does, who imposes that fine? Who gathers that fine? Is it cumulative? Does it last for 6 days? Does it last for 6 months? Do you collect it every day? These are the kinds of questions that we need to determine. The first thing we need to determine is, do we in fact need this? Do we need more government regulation? Is that what we really need? Or do we need to do what we're supposed to do up here? Do we need to conduct the business of the city of Haltom City and get on down the road doing that? That's all I have to say.
Councilmember Hurley and then Councilmember Williams.
Well, we have an ethics ordinance which was adopted within the last year, like Bill says. I haven't seen any problems that the city has had morally, ethically, or legally with any of the council members. I question the need for a disclosure ordinance such as this. Our situation here is not the same as it is in Colleyville. We don't have the same circumstances. But in all fairness, I would make a motion that we table the thing to where we had time to really give it some serious consideration, unless the rest of the council wants to take a vote now. If they're willing to vote now, I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion that this be tabled indefinitely, tabled until a specific time.
That's up to the council.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor that this be tabled at this time. Do we have a second? Councilmember Williams, your light was on. Was that for
Yes,
a
sir.
second?
I've read this through. I know it's bad for me to say anything about Colleyville after I sit there and read a document from Grapevine. I give you credit, Mr. Mayor, for going over to Colleyville and getting this document and having it sent over to us where we could look at it. I wonder what one of the deals in here, it says that you disclose property or business deals you have in Haltom City are those in adjoining areas. I'm a little troubled that we don't have a document from a city in one of the adjoining areas that we could look at along with this. I'll echo what Councilmember Hurley said, Mayor Pro Tem Jennings. The Ethics Commission that we put together, committee, turned us over an ethics policy that was requested by the citizens. They worked very long and very hard on it. Kind of makes me feel like that we're questioning their integrity, that they gave us a document to work by, and now we're wanting to amend it this fast after it's done. Timing, I don't know if it's a good time or a bad time to do it. I think all 8 gentlemen up here are ethical, or they wouldn't be sitting here. I think the voters of Haltom City would take care of that. I've got cows in Decatur. I don't know what that's got to do with Haltom City. Now, I want to tell everybody I got cows in Decatur, so if that's going to be a problem with Haltom City, I want to disclose that. 3 years ago Christmas, my wife gave me a Harley Davidson for Christmas. Do I have to disclose that? It's more than $250. So, you know, Colleyville may have had a real good time putting this together. I know the Star Telegram has a real good time with them and with their developers and stuff and the people that serve on the boards and the commissions and the council. I know it's just asking questions about your children, your immediate family. My children, immediate family, take enough trouble when I run for office. If you've got something on you and you run for Haltom City, they're going to know what it is before you're in office. You don't have to disclose it on a piece of paper. I'm going to second Mr. Hurley's motion that we table this. I want him to either tell me, though, I'll second it either way, whether you want to table it definitely or to a certain date. I'd like to suggest that, first of all, let me ask you a question, Mayor. Did someone bring this to your attention, or is this self-initiated, or I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just...
No, that's fine. If I put an item on the agenda, I need to answer any questions my colleagues have. No one brought this to my attention.
We hadn't had a complaint about it.
I've not received a complaint about this, no. I saw the article in the paper. I took the initiative from there to get a copy of it, feeling like it had some merit, and that's how it came about, but no one brought it to my attention.
The one problem I have with it, you know, it asks for all the information from family members, and one of the things that stands out to me, they want you to turn all this in, but if you're serving a board member or serving on the council, you're grandfathered. So, you know, I don't think it would be fair to ask one person maybe going to run for office when you got some other people sitting on here on the board in office that they wouldn't, you know, adhere to the same rules. I will second Mr. Hurley's vote, but I'd like to have an amendment to maybe table this until the first meeting in May next year.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I need a little bit of clarity about tabling it, the duration of the tabling it.
You'll have to ask him if he'll accept that amendment to his motion.
Well, I was ready to change my motion to
Well, I withdraw my
disapproving
second.
this. Pardon?
I'll withdraw my second. You make your motion.
Well, in that case, I would make a motion that we table this indefinitely.
Well, if that's the case, I'd have to second it.
Okay. You second the motion to table indefinitely?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the motion we have, Councilmember Fowler, discussion on the motion.
No, sir.
Councilmember Henderson?
No, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table indefinitely, which in effect kills this from any further action unless it's brought up at a later time. That being the case, any discussion on this motion from any other member of the council? These two gentlemen, I just called their name, had their lights on, and I thought maybe they might have discussion. Okay, there being none, gentlemen, if you'll register your vote, I will display it. And that passes.
Could we ask for clarification on that as a yes vote?
Sir?
Could we have clarification on that as a yes vote?
To
Is
table
approving
indefinitely?
Tabling
Yes, sir.
indefinitely?
Yes, sir. The yes vote was to table, was in favor of the motion you had made.
Okay.
You have recorded the vote? Okay. We move forward now with item number 12. Mr. Torres, would you like to introduce this item for us, please?
Mayor and council and citizens, this is our monthly financial report that's going to be presented by our finance director, Mr. Pat L. Frink. I'll let you give them the details, Pat.
Plenty of details. Thank you.
Good details, excellent.
What I have here for the council and for the public is our monthly financial report to report financial activity for the previous month, in this case September. However, this report is a little bit special in that September marks the end of our fiscal calendar year. Therefore, we are in the process of a complete audit of all of the financial aspects of our city's activity for the past year. There are still many things yet to be done with regard to closing the books. We will have a final report, probably not for another 3 months, when the final audit is completed and that document is presented to the council. But at this time, I can basically report to the council that the general fund appears to have ended the year at 101% of budgeted revenues. That's the original adopted budget. 98% of budgeted expenditures. We look as though we will make the 20% fund balance goal that we set for ourselves back in May prior to going to New York to issue bonds this year. That was quite a step forward, and it was something that we were really watching for. It looks like we'll be okay in that regard. For the other major funds that are included in this document, we have the Water Fund, the Crime District, and the Economic Development Corporation. We also believe that they're going to end the year in a positive financial manner. There are a couple of shortfalls in some different places in this report, but we do believe that we have ways of making those up by sharing some funds, some of the surpluses that we have in some of the other funds. At the end of this report, we have two pages devoted to our investment activity. We currently have $26 million invested in our portfolio, earning a weighted average for the past 3 months of 2.74%, which is about 70 basis points above our targeted goal. So we're doing pretty good in that regard also. That's basically all I have on this report, unless there's any questions.
Questions from any member of the council for Mr. Elfrink on this very good, very encouraging report, very positive for our Haltom City.
Thank you very much.
Comments from the city manager?
No, I'm very pleased. This is ideally the way that every municipal government wants to end the fiscal year, slightly over in revenues and slightly under in expenditures. And times are tough for a lot of municipalities right now, but City of Haltom City is not probably experiencing the kind of difficulty that some of the other cities have experienced, and we're very fortunate, and we're going to do everything in our power to keep it that way. So it all looks good on the financial front, I believe.
I still have, and I say but we still have ongoing concerns in some general areas of the economy with regard to sales tax. And anyone who reads the business papers knows that we're not necessarily at the end of the recession yet, and those things affect us. But thus far, we're surviving, we're enduring, because we have a very conservative way of approaching our financial policies.
I believe item number 12 does not require any kind of action. It's an FYI. Is that correct?
Well, I think we have been getting
voted to
approval.
accept it in the past.
Yes. Right.
Councilmember Jennings?
Move to approve.
Councilmember Williams?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve this report given by Mr. Elfrink. If you'll register your vote. And thank you, Mr. Elfrink.
Thank you.
Good news. Item number 13, our capital improvement status report. We have a lot of things going on in Haltom City. And now to give us a report on where we are as we progress from month to month, our Assistant City Manager, Tom Muir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor alluded to, there is an awful lot going on. And with the weather, the wetness that we've had lately, things are a tad askew, shall we say. Let's start off with Carson. Paving has started on the west side. We're hoping to have that finished, but we have had a development in analyzing the sanitary sewer line and televising the sanitary sewer line in there. We've noticed a problem that we're currently working with the contractor on and the engineer. It is progressing well. We're still analyzing it, but we don't anticipate it significantly delaying the project or the completion of the project. But again, hopefully the paving will be complete sometime next month, and then the sidewalks and driveway cuts will be done shortly thereafter. Broadway, the intersection of Fincher and Broadway was supposed to be closed last Monday. It was delayed till today, and it's delayed again because of the wetness that we've been having. We haven't even really designated a date because we're just not sure what it's going to be. It may be a couple of weeks, probably at least, but it'll be a little farther away. But that closing of that intersection is crucial to delaying some utility lines. We're working with the business owners very closely and trying to make this as painless as we can. As Mr. Van Nieuwenhuis alluded to earlier, there is a meeting set up with the property owners along Broadway tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. In the recon projects, the street recon projects, the Lindsay, Revere, and Roxy, last council meeting, the council elected to install sidewalks along Roxy, and the staff is proceeding with that plan. Once Roxy is finished, then Lindsay will be started with the utility replacements in the streets. And then once that's finished, Revere will be following shortly thereafter. The Jerry and Mona project, Jerry is almost completely paved. There's one stretch of several hundred feet that hasn't been paved yet. And then when that is done, the sidewalks and driveway cutouts will be done. Mona, the subgrade work has been complete, and the paving will begin shortly, probably sometime this week. Again, weather permitting, and again, all these things are weather permitting. Catalpa Street project. Marpave Construction has the project at the same point Mona is. The subgrade work's complete. We're waiting to pave, and hopefully that'll be coming up here in the next couple of weeks. North Beach and 820. There is some activity finally out there. Citgo is out there moving that line. We anticipate the entire project, the frontage road and all that stuff, to be complete probably sometime late January, early February, and that's a little bit of a change from what I've been telling you over the last couple of months. Part of that is because Austin Bridge is waiting until Citgo finishes their portion of the project out there. Beforehand, we were thinking they were going to be out there together, but that is they don't feel real comfortable with that, and frankly, it's probably better for all of us if when one finishes and the next firm get out there. But they are out there working diligently again, weather permitting. The Midway Road Bridge Replacement Project. The bridge is gone, bridge is out, and it's the pilings for the foundation are currently being established, but that project is still going along according to schedule. The Big Fossil Creek channel improvements. You've seen the temporary irrigation system that's been out there for a couple of months, and it seems to have done its job. There are still some bare spots that the contractor has reseeded. It will be reseeded again in spring, though. The temporary irrigation system will be removed very shortly, but those spots that were reseeded recently will be again reseeded, be reevaluated. We're going to be hanging on to the contractor's retainage until such time next spring. As far as sanitary sewer projects, the manhole rehab project that Infra Rehab has been doing, we've been working with them and their bonding company. They have, it's not finished. I guess they've more or less finished their work is being tested. The lines have been televised. The engineer, Tignall and Perkins, is evaluating the videotapes and the interdata to determine the status of the project. We're hoping that goes well. The sanitary sewer replacement for the Big Fossil Creek drainage basin, that is supposed to be starting just about any day now. Again, the weather has really delayed that. The Circle C is about to start that. We're still waiting some approval from the Texas Water Development Board, but that will be starting any day. And I'd like to close with the construction projects that we currently have. Tomorrow we open bids on the Public Works facility. I'm very encouraged by the quality of the bids and the number of bids that we'll be getting. We've issued over 50 sets of plans and specifications. In the number of different projects I've done over my career, I've never had a pre-bid as well attended as the one for this. had a lot of people there. So I'm very encouraged by that, and I'm hoping for some good bids. The rec center project had a similar turnout. Those things open November 12th. We're hoping to have a bid recommendation to you on November 25th. And again, on the Public Works facility, we're hoping to bring a bid recommendation to you at the next council meeting on November 11th. These are, again, tentative dates depending on us evaluating the bids and the architect evaluating the bids. And last, the fire station. Fire station, we've tentatively got scheduled to issue plans on November 11th. And then the bids will be due in on December 10th, with the bid recommendation hopefully coming to you all the last meeting in December or the first meeting in January, depending on if there's a council meeting right there at the Christmas holidays or not. It's at y'all's will. But hopefully the construction for that project will start late January, shortly thereafter. And with that, I conclude my report, unless there's any questions.
Councilmember Jennings, then Councilmember Williams, and I think Mr. Torres may have some comments to make.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions, one pertaining to the animal shelter project. This may be for council. Will we be brought up to speed on the mediation that was held the 24th in executive session?
I have a handout for you here, and it's going to be covered tonight in the
Very good.
executive session.
The other question has to do with the Buffalo Ridge Park situation, where we've hydromulch, we've put the water in, we've established grass. We're going back this spring. It's my understanding that the Park and Recreation Department will be responsible for the mowing of these inclines that we've created. That being park property, is that correct? Will they maintain those?
As far as whether it's the Parks and Rec, it'll be city responsibility. Okay. Now, I can't comment as far as whether it'll be Parks and Rec or Public Works. Maybe the city manager may be in a better position to comment.
They are planning to mow that this summer. They're not just going to let, up before there wasn't any designated bank there, so that was just growing wild. Right. But they are actually planning to mow that.
Yeah, I'm expecting that those slopes are going to be maintained. Maybe not down at the very bottom, but right. the significant part of that slope should be.
The only other question pertaining to that same situation I discussed with you the other night, Richard, as part of the contract for that, the city is the source of maintenance actually on the creek, and part of our problem last time was we allowed the silt to silt into the bottom of that creek down there.
Right.
I'm just wanting to make sure that we have something online there to keep that same problem from reoccurring at some time in the future, so we don't have to go in and spend $500,000 again.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
And the best thing that I can offer to contribute to that is that through the reorganization and the additional funds put into the budget that was adopted just recently in our street and drainage division, and that number of employees has grew from 11 to 18. So we're going to have a significant increase in manpower in that group, and that's the reason I think Tom was probably right. It's more than likely that down in that slope area, that'll be the responsibility of the drainage crews out there maintaining these things, more so than Parks and Rec.
But you envision that all to be done by city crews, is that correct?
That is correct.
Fantastic.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Back way up to 820, where you was talking about Sitco.
Sure.
It's a gas line, I assume, that they're moving. And where they going to relocate that gas line to where?
They are relocating it now.
Will it be parallel with 820, or where will it go?
It's going to be parallel to 820. They're not moving it very far at all.
Okay.
It's jet fuel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jet fuel.
Yeah.
Anything further, Councilman?
No, that's it.
Mr. Torres.
Just some real general comments, really more so for the citizens. Staff's biggest challenge right now is keeping up with this wide variety and ever-growing number of capital improvement projects that we have ongoing. It's a massive amount, and there's a lot more to come. And one of the things that we are focused on is trying to keep the City Council informed and up to speed as to what's going on a monthly basis. But certainly these reports that we deliver here are are for the benefit of the citizens as much as anyone else. And certainly we have copies here if anybody would like to follow along. I think they may be even on the internet.
Yes,
Is
they are.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to respond in any way they would desire. And that's all I have.
Tom, if I might ask a couple of questions regarding Carson. I know
Yes,
that's
sir.
been a 3 or 4 year project, and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Those guys are laying steel and pouring concrete.
Yes, sir.
When do we get to the end of the tunnel? Do you have a target date at this point, Greg, when we can walk away from that? We may have an occasion to celebrate when we finally
Yeah.
are able to walk away from that. What are we shooting at?
Well,
realistically.
I don't know. I guess I'll hesitate to really give a date right now until we got a better handle on what the sanitary sewer problem is and exactly what the correct solution is going to be and who's going to be on the hook for that. I don't know if I'm willing to put a date on it. Do you want me to? Or?
I don't know that I could put a date on it either, but in terms of substantial completion, and that means when you've got all 5 lanes open to the public, we still may be doing some grassing or something like that behind the back curb. But I anticipate that date at the very end of the year or the first part of the next year.
Okay. That'll be a great day when we
Yes.
get Carson. And then the next great day, maybe, to get Broadway and the service road.
Right.
You know, so we appreciate all the work the city crews are doing, the staff, in trying to move forward all of these projects. We're on the edge of great accomplishment in Haltom City, and these projects help us get there, and thank you, all of you, for what you do. Is this a FYI item, or is this
That is
something-
correct. No action required on this one, Mayor.
Item number 14, I think we have in our packets information regarding boards and commissions. Unless a member of the council feels a need to make a comment, I'll move on to item 15. Okay, let's move on to item 15, resignation of board members. Any action by the council at this point? Appointments and reappointments. Councilman Fowler, I believe you have a couple to make.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to appoint Miss Beverly Henson to the Crime Prevention Board. She resides at 3540 East Ridge. And I would like to ask for ratification of Miss Jerry Moore to the Library Board. She resides at 5409 Jane Ann.
Okay, you've heard Councilmember Fowler's recommendation. If you will, register your vote for ratification on these 2 appointments. And that carries by unanimous vote. Item number 17 is attendance requirement. I need a motion regarding Councilmember Markham's absence tonight. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to excuse Councilmember Markham due to illness.
Councilmember Fowler.
Just for a second.
Okay, Councilmember Williams.
Just a second. I wish he gets well and get back. We missed him. I just wish that he would get well and get back. We miss him.
Yes, we do miss him. We look forward to him being back. If you will, gentlemen, register your vote regarding excusing Councilmember Markham's absence, and that carries by unanimous vote. We move now to executive session pursuant to section 551.071 and .071, okay, at 9:20 p.m. What, 54? We have 2 items of action to take on subjects discussed in executive session. I'm in line for a motion regarding the Big Fossil Creek Channel Improvement Project.
Ding.
John makes the motion. Do we have a second?
You want me to state
Have
the
a
motion?
second.
Or
Yeah, does he, please state the motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the city council direct our legal staff to file a lawsuit against Ken Holmes.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Raise your hand, indicate the vote carries by unanimous vote. The second item has to do with a settlement, City of Haltom City versus Vaughn Construction Company.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the mediation agreement entered into by our city attorney and our city manager in regard to Vaughn Construction.
Have a motion, have a second. Did you see the second?
All in favor?
All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it passes by unanimous vote. There being no further items to be addressed posted on the agenda, we stand adjourned.
That's all, folks.